In our last lesson, we focused on decimals through the tenths place. We saw that when a digit comes directly after the decimal point, it represents tenths. So 8 tenths is the same as the fraction 8 out of 10. Today, we're going to expand our study of decimals and look at the hundredths and thousandths places. Just as this 8 represents 8 out of 10 or 8 tenths, this 7 represents 7 out of 100 or 7 hundredths, and this 3 represents 3 out of 1,000 or 3 thousandths. Anytime we look at a decimal, it's important that we're constantly thinking about the fraction equivalent and the model that go with that decimal. So for example, how would we model 1/100th of the figure below? Well, if we have 100 parts, we're simply going to shade in one teeny tiny piece. That same amount can be expressed as a decimal, written as 0.01, 1/100th. And what this means is 0 ones, 0 tenths, all we have is one teeny tiny piece in the hundredths place. 1/100th is expressed the same as 1/100th, the fraction. I'm going to teach you how to read big decimal numbers in 4 easy steps. Step 1 is we say whatever comes before the decimal point. So we say the whole number. In this case, that is 5. Then we say and for the decimal point. And shows the separation between whole numbers on the left side and parts or decimal numbers on the right side. So we say 5 and. Now the next part gets tricky. We say whatever comes after the decimal point as if it's a regular number. So we say 5 and 167. The last thing we say is the place name of the final digit, which is like our imaginary denominator. So here we would say 5 and 167 thousandths, because the final digit, the 7, is sitting in the thousandths place. Let's keep practicing this. We're going to try a couple together, a few in partners, and then a few on your own. So if we look at this first one, the 2 is sitting in the thousandths place. We have 3 digits. So we know the last thing we're going to say is thousandths. Let's try to read this together. 4 and 352 thousandths. The next number only has 2 digits after the decimal point. So that 2 is sitting in the hundredths place. The last thing we say will be hundredths. So we say 7 and 82 hundredths. Now the next 2 have zeros in the ones place. You can say 0 and, but it sounds a little silly. You don't have to. So we don't have any ones. So we can just skip 0 and simply say our decimal or our fraction. 216 thousandths, because the 6 is in the thousandths place. Same thing here, 34 hundredths, because the 4 is in the hundredths place. What would we say if we only have 1 digit after the decimal point? You remember this from our last lesson, that's tenths. So this number would be 6 and 8 tenths. Please pause the video and practice reading these 5 decimal numbers with a partner. We'll come back together and check them when you're ready. All right, let's practice reading these out loud together. Remember, when we have 1 digit after the decimal point, it's tenths. When there are 2 digits, it's hundredths. And when there are 3 digits, it's thousandths. Here we go. 5 and 6 tenths. 0 and 127 thousandths. If you want to skip the 0 and, it's just 127 thousandths. 3 and 45 hundredths. 4 and 6 thousandths. 4 and 12 hundredths. Now I'd like you to pause the video again and practice these 5 numbers on your own. We'll come back together and check them in a moment. Remember, when we have 1 number after our decimal point, it's tenths. 2 numbers is, you got it, hundredths, and 3 numbers is thousandths. All right, let's go. 6 and 47 hundredths. 12 and 9 tenths. 2 and 19 thousandths. 332 thousandths. If you said 0 and, that's okay. 4 and 11 thousandths. Okay, now that we have a common language for how we read these numbers, we're gonna dive in a little deeper to what they mean. I want you to remember what these look like when we model them. A tenth is 1 whole broken into 10 parts. So here's what a tenth looks like. A hundredth is 1 whole broken into 100 parts. And if we get even smaller, a thousandth is 1 whole broken into 1,000 parts. So as you can see, the smaller we get, the more difficult this becomes to model. So we're gonna keep these models in our mind, but the 3 forms we will focus on today is decimal form, fraction form, and word form. So if we're given one of these 3 forms, we should be able to come up with the other 2. So here we have in word form, 63 hundredths. Now I can picture that as a fraction because 63 is my numerator and 100 is my denominator, 63 hundredths. When I go to write this in decimal form, I need to notice that I didn't say anything and, which means I don't have a whole number. All I have is 63 hundredths. I want to make sure that it has 2 digits after the decimal point so that my 3 is landing in that hundredths place. Wow, now I have a big long decimal. Let's break it down and see if we can write it. First, we say the number in the ones place. 2, and my decimal point I know is and. Next, we say whatever comes after the decimal point. So we have 100, 45, and what's my place name if I have 3 digits after my decimal point? If you said thousandths, you got it. Now writing this as a fraction is tricky because I do have a number in my ones place. I know that this is going to be a mixed number. 2 is my whole number. 145 is my numerator, and my denominator is these teeny tiny pieces that look like that. My denominator is thousandths. Man, that is an ugly mixed number. You can see why we prefer decimals when we get to these teeny tiny small pieces. Okay, for my next one, 8 hundredths. Well, that's easy. 8 hundredths looks like this in word form. For decimal form, I'm gonna do something called making a mistake on purpose, and I need you to tell me what I did wrong. If I wanted to write 8 hundredths, I'm just gonna do this in my margin, like that. Turn and whisper to your partner, what's wrong with writing 8 hundredths like that? If you said, Miss Witherspoon, the 8 is in the tenths place, that's not right. In order to get my 8 in the hundredths place, I need a 0 in the tenths place to show that this 8 is actually even smaller. It has a value of only 8 hundredths. So make sure that 0 is there as your placeholder. 8 hundredths, 8 hundredths, 8 hundredths. There you go. Want the worksheet I'm using in this video? Click on the link below and get the full packet, including partner practice, 3 pages of independent practice, a challenge page for your early finishers, and an exit quiz. Thank you for watching and happy teaching.